Everybody, it's Kelly here from Craftandacuppa, and today I'm going to show you how to make the Scrappy Shift Dress. Now this pattern is made to measure, therefore you can use any yarn that you wish. You could use 4-ply, DK, Aran weight, chunky, whatever you've got in your stash, just grab it and go basically. So it's in sizes extra small to 5XL, and I've provided all the measurements that you're going to be working towards. You can find those in the written description of the video, along with timestamps for the video. So what you're going to need is a hook to match your yarn weight. I'm making another one with Aran acrylic scraps, which is what this one is made from. And I've chosen to use a 6mm hook. That's just my personal preference. You use whatever you want. You're going to need some scissors, a little needle for weaving in your pesky ends. Yay! Tape measure and stitch markers. I think that's about it for what you're going to need, to be honest with you. The pattern's in US terms because that's how I learned. I don't know why. I didn't know that the UK did separate ones, so there we are. It's in US terms. Is that it? I think that is possibly about it. So go grab some yarn and I'll meet you back here in a second. Okay, so to start the pattern, we are going to make two I'm going to call them granny squares, or maybe two squares. I've started my first one. I've got my first one ready and made because I didn't have nothing to do last night, and I thought, I know, I'll make one of my little squares up. So just to show you what we're going to be doing, it's basically going to be one side of double crochets and then one chain space side, and then double crochets again, and then on the opposite side is the chain space sides. And we're just going to keep repeating that all the way around until you get to the correct measurement for your size. So I'm going to keep this to one side because I need to make sure I match all my colours. I like to be matchy-matchy. So I'm going to match all my colours from what I made last night for my second square. Let me just put that to one side and I'll show you how to make the squares. Okay, so we're going to start off with a slip knot. And we're going to do the first round. It's going to work up just like how you would start a regular granny square. Now, how you begin is up to you. If you prefer to do a magic circle, then go ahead and do that. I'm not really great with magic circles, so I'm going to chain 4. And then join with a slip stitch to the very first chain. So I'm going to go back through my very first chain with my hook and just make a slip stitch. Okay, so we are ready to start round 1. So we're going to chain 3, and that is going to be your first double crochet. And then you're going to put 2 double crochets back into the center of your loop. If you've done the chain like me to start off with, rather than a magic ring, work around your tail end. For this little loose tail end, work your stitches around that, so then when we've done this round we can pull it tight and just close this center gap. So that was a chain 3 and 2 double crochets back into the center of the loop. Chain 2. Now we're going to put 3 double crochets into the center. Chain 2. 3 more double crochets back into the center. And I'm working around my tail end still. As you can see, it's right there. I'm just going around that as well. Okay, so we need 4 sets of 3 double crochets. At the minute, I've got 3. 1, 2, 3. So I need to do it one more time, chain 2, and then put 3 double crochets back into the center. Chain 2, and then we're going to join the round together by slip stitching to the top of the chain 3 from the beginning of the round. So just go through that top chain. I can't get in there. Oh, there we go. Sometimes it's just best to give it a little wiggle. And there we go. You should have 4 sets of 3 double crochets, but remember that your first one, you've got your chain 3. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and I've got 2 chains in between each one. I'm just going to get my tail end from the center because I've been working around that, and I'm going to pull it nice and tight, and that just closes up that hole in the middle, and that's round 1. Okay, for round 2, if you are sticking with the same colour, then what you're going to do, because we're going to be turning our work after every round to keep our seam in the centre rather than going off on a diagonal, and to stop our squares going wonky. So if you are sticking with the same colour, you are literally just going to turn your work and slip stitch back into this corner chain space. And now you're ready to start round 2. But I'm going scrappy, so I'm going to change colour. So I'm just going to undo that one because I need to fasten off. Right, going to change my colour. I used a brown, not thinking. I hope it comes out okay for round 2. Fingers crossed. So because I'm changing colour, I'm going to turn my work and I'm going to go in to the very same chain space that I just fastened off from. Right, let me get my new yarn, make a slip stitch. I'm just going to attach my yarn in that same chain space but with my stitches wrong side facing me, and just attach it with a slip stitch. Like so. So round 2, we are going to chain 3, which is going to class as your first double crochet, and we're going to put 1 more double crochet back into this same corner chain space. Now we're going to put a double crochet in every stitch along this row. We've got 3 stitches, 3 double crochets to go into. So put 1 double crochet in each stitch. And now we're at the corner chain space. In every corner chain space, you are going to do the same thing. And that is 2 double crochets in this corner chain space. And then chain 2. And then 2 more doubles back into this corner chain space. And that is what you're going to do on every single corner. Right, we're on a new side now. This is going to be the chain space side. So what we're going to do is we're going to chain 1. We're going to skip the next stitch and we're going to go in the next one with a double crochet. And then we're going to chain 1, skip the next stitch, and that then takes us into the corner chain space, where we will do exactly what we've just done in our other corner, and that is 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets. We're now back onto what I would call the solid row of double crochets. So you're always going to have opposite each other the same row. Double crochet row here. I'm now going to do a double crochet row on the opposite side because that one we've just done was a chain space row. I say row, it's not really a row, is it? But you know what I mean. Okay, so we're just going to go straight in with doubles, no chains. We're going to put double crochets in all of the stitches, and there's 3 to go in. Which then brings us to another corner. In the corner, we're going to do 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets, back into the same corner, which brings us to the last row, I'm going to call it, the last edge, the last row, which is the chain space row, because we've got a chain space one opposite at the bottom here, and the 2 solid rows here. So we are going to chain 1, skip the next stitch, and go into the middle stitch, or go into the next stitch with a double crochet, chain 1, skip the next stitch, and that brings us straight in to the final corner chain space, which already has 2 doubles. Well, it's your chain 3 and a double crochet from the beginning of the round. So we're going to go in that very same corner chain space and put 2 double crochets, chain 2, and then join it to the top of your chain 3 from the beginning of the round with a slip stitch. And that's round 2. Right, round 3. If you are staying with the same colour, then you are just going to turn your work and slip stitch back into that same corner chain space that you've just been in, and you're ready to start. But me being me, I'm using every colour under the sun again and changing colours every row. Don't know why I do it to myself, but I do because it does look amazing. So I am going to fasten off. I'm going to turn my work around so that my stitches on the last row are now wrong side facing me. And I'm going to go back into the very same corner that I've just fastened off from with a lighter colour. So hopefully you can see it a bit better. Trust me to use brown, but do you know what? It looks amazing. So I'm sorry, everybody, but it does look amazing. And it's not getting used a lot. Just now and again, it's going to make a little appearance. But it really looks really cool next to this colour. So I'm going to attach a nice bright greeny blue, mint green maybe? I don't know. I'm going to go back into the very same corner that I was just in, but with my stitches wrong side facing me. And we're just going to do the reverse of what we've just done, basically. So we're going to chain 3 and put another double crochet into the same corner chain space. Now the next row, I'm going to call it row or side, I don't know. I'll probably flip between the two, or just keep going row, side, all the way throughout this whole tutorial. So yeah, on this next row bit here on the side, we've got the chain space row. I think I'm just going to call it a row, sorry everyone. We've got the chain space row. So we've just got our 2 doubles in here, although technically that's a chain 3 and that's a double. So what we're going to do now is chain 1, skip the next stitch, and then we're going to go into the next stitch with a double crochet. So because I'm using brown, and I'm sorry you can't see it very well, that was chain 1, skip next stitch, go in the next stitch with a double crochet. The next thing we're going to do is chain 1, and we're going to skip this chain space. And we're going to go into the next stitch with a double crochet. Do that again, chain 1, skip the next chain space, go in the next stitch with a double crochet. You should now have 1 stitch left before your corner chain space. 1 stitch. So you're going to chain 1, skip over that last stitch and go straight into your corner chain space with 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets back into that same corner chain space. That now brings us to the solid row. Okay, so what we're going to do now is no chains at all. We're just going to put a double crochet in every single stitch across this row. So 1 double crochet in every single stitch. There we go. I'm now at the next corner, so I'm going to put 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets back into the same corner, which has now brought me to the chain space row again. So I'm going to chain 1, skip the next stitch, because there's 2 stitches here, skip your next stitch and place a double crochet in the next stitch, chain 1, skip the next chain space and go into the next stitch with a double crochet, chain 1, skip the next chain space and go in the next stitch with a double crochet, and that's left you with 1 stitch and then your corner chain space. So you're going to chain 1, skip that final stitch and go straight into the corner with 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets. That then leaves you with the solid row. So you're just going to put a double crochet in every single stitch, no chains in between, just a double crochet on in every single stitch. And then that leaves you with the final corner, which has already got 2 stitches in it from the beginning of the round. So you just need to put 2 double crochets into that final corner and then a chain 2, and then we're going to join it to the top of the chain 3 from the beginning of the round with a slip stitch. And that is round 3. If you want to keep track of your stitch counts, where are we? So I'm just referring to my notes. I have notes, you know, otherwise I forget what I'm saying half the time. Where are we? So professional, aren't I? Okay, so every time you do a round, you're going to gain an extra 4 double crochets on each side. Sorry, opposite sides. And you're going to gain 2 extra chain spaces on each of the chain space sides. So that's 4 extra double crochets every time you do a round. So round, okay, I'm coming back to my notes again. Sorry, everybody. Round 2, you should have 7 double crochets and 2 chain spaces. 2 chain spaces. I'm babbling. I feel like I'm babbling right now. But anyway, round 3, you should have 11 double crochets. So you've gone from 7 double crochets from round 2 to 11 double crochets on round 3. So round 4, if you add 4 to 11, you'll end up with 15. So you should have 15 double crochets on your next round. Just to confuse you. Okay, so it's time for round 4. Now remember, if you're using the same colour, all you are going to do is turn your work and slip stitch straight back into that corner chain space and you are ready to start. But again, I'm changing colour, so let me just undo that and fasten off quickly. Okay, let me get my new colour. attach it with a slip knot. So I am going to turn my work and join in the very same corner that I was just in with a slip stitch. And now we're ready to go again. So it's going to be chain 3 as your first double, and then put a double crochet back into the same corner chain space. So now we've got the solid row to do. So we're just going to put double crochets in every single stitch. And you should have a total of 15 double crochets going across here by the time we've done this bit. Oh, my belly's rumbling. I hope no one just heard that. Well, it's not really rumbling, I have just eaten, but... Okay, so 2 double crochets back into this corner, the next corner, sorry. Chain 2, and then 2 double crochets into the corner again. Which then brings us to the chain space row. So what we're going to do is chain 1. You can see it lots better now, can't you? I'm on the green. I do apologise for using brown. I don't know, I just didn't think. I literally didn't think. But like I say, it actually looks amazing. So it's got to stay. Sorry everybody. Okay, so we're going to chain 1 and we're going to skip the first stitch and go into the next one with a double crochet. Chain 1. Skip the next chain space and go into the next stitch with a double crochet. Chain 1. Skip the next chain space and go into the next stitch with a double crochet. Chain 1. Again, skip your chain space, go in the next stitch with a double crochet. Chain 1. Skip chain space and go into the next stitch with a double crochet, which should then leave you with 1 stitch and then your corner chain space. Chain 1, put 2 double crochets. Oh, sorry, I didn't say skip the stitch, did I? Chain 1, skip the next stitch and go straight into your corner chain space with 2 double crochets. Chain 2, 2 double crochets. We're back to the solid row now. So we're just going to put a double crochet in every single stitch. Remember, if you want to count, there should be 15 by the time you get to the end of the corner. One more to place in my stitches, and then we've got to the corner, so we've got to put 2 double crochets, which should then give you a total of 15 going across. Chain 2, 2 double crochets back into that corner again, which then brings us back to the chain space row. I'm going to chain 1 and skip the first stitch, go in the next stitch with a double crochet, chain 1, skip the chain space and go in the next stitch with a double crochet, chain 1, skip chain space, go in next stitch with a double crochet, chain 1. Oh, I can see a bit of fluff on my yarn. Oh, that's not too bad. Maybe I can cut that. I think I should be all right. Hang on, sorry everybody. Just a little pause while I just snip this bit of fuzz off. Try not to cut my yarn. That'll do. So where was I? I've just chained 1. I've got to skip my next chain space and go in the next stitch with a double crochet. Chain 1, skip the next chain space and go in your next stitch with a double crochet. Chain 1 and then skip your final stitch and put 2 double crochets into the final corner chain space, and then a chain 2 and join it to the top of the chain 3 from the beginning of the round with a slip stitch. And that is round 4. I've pushed all my ends to the back here because I always say when I'm changing colours, what I tend to do is I leave my centre tail and then I weave in all my other ends on this side only so that I know that this is going to become my wrong side. Now you don't have to do it that way. You can choose whatever side you wish to be the right side and the wrong side. It doesn't matter. That choice is completely up to you. But I've just got a thing where I like to weave my ends in as I go. So I like to pick my side pretty quickly because if there's too many ends, I get like, oh no, I just can't deal with it. So I like to weave as I go. So I've pushed all my ends through to what is going to be my back side, and I'm going to leave that tail in the centre so I always know to weave my ends on this side. Just a little tip for you, what I do anyway. You don't have to do it, however you do it is absolutely fine. Oh look, I've just fastened off because I've been talking. Well, you guys know, don't you, that if you're staying with the same colour, you're going to be turning your work and slip stitching back into that corner chain space, and then you're ready to go for round 5. Okay, I'm going to do one more round with you, and that is round 5. Exactly the same as what we've just been doing. Now I fastened off because I was chatting, but if you've stuck with the same colour, remember you're just going to turn and slip stitch back into that corner chain space and you're ready to go. Now I'm changing colour, so I'm still going to turn my work and then I'm going to slip stitch into that corner. Basically doing the same thing really, aren't we? But I'm just joining in a new colour. Okay, so exactly the same thing. Again, we're going to chain 3 and put another double crochet back into that corner chain space. Now if we look here, we are on the chain space row. So we're going to chain 1, skip the first stitch and go in the next stitch with a double crochet. Chain 1, skip your next chain space and go in the next stitch with a double crochet and keep doing that. Chain 1, skip next chain space, go in next stitch with a double crochet. Chain 1, skip your chain space, go in next stitch with a double crochet. Chain 1, skip chain space, double crochet in next stitch. Chain 1, skip chain space, double crochet in next stitch. Chain 1, skip chain space, double crochet in next stitch. Chain 1, skip the last stitch and then put 2 double crochets in the in the next corner chain space. Chain 2, 2 doubles back into that same chain space. And now we're on the solid row. So we're going to put a double crochet in every single stitch. Now if you remember what I said when I kind of went on a bit of a tangent earlier and literally forgot what I was doing and had to look at my notes, every extra row you add onto this solid row is going to give you 4 extra stitches for your stitch count. So round 4 we had 15, so that now means by the time I've placed my final 2 in this corner, I should have 19 double crochets going across this edge. So if you want to count and keep up with your stitch counts, when I send you off on your merry way to keep expanding your square, just remember that each round adds 4 extra double crochets to these 2 sides and 2 extra chain spaces on each side if you want to keep up with your stitch count. Oh, I've got to be honest, I'm a bit terrible really with that, and I should be better, because if I do make a mistake and it's like a few rows back, you're just like, oh, Why didn't I just count it? But I just thought get sucked into the telly and I can't count and watch telly at the same time. That's my excuse. Right, so I'm now all the way to my next corner. So I'm going to put 2 double crochets in there. Chain 2. Ooh. 2 more double crochets back into the corner. Which brings us back to the chain space row. So you're going to chain 1. Skip your next stitch and put a double crochet in the next stitch. Chain 1. And now you're going to be skipping the chain spaces. So skip your chain space and put a double crochet back into the next stitch. Chain 1. Skip chain space, double crochet in next stitch. Chain 1. Skip chain space, double crochet in next stitch. Chain 1. I need a bit of extra yarn. Skip your next chain space and put a double crochet in the next stitch. Chain 1, skip chain space. Look, I'm saying it that many times, I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. Have I chained 1? Yes. Skip chain space, double crochet in next stitch. Chain 1, skip the last chain space and put a double crochet in the next stitch. Chain 1, skip your final stitch and then come to your corner, where you're going to put your 2 doubles, chain 2, 2 more double crochets, and then that brings us back to the solid edge. We're going to put a double crochet in every single stitch. So it's quite easy really, you just look at what edge you've got and copy it basically. It's either going to be a double crochet, like a solid double crochet row, or a chain space one. Just try not to get confused and mix them up. And I think on my other one, on one of them, I did add a chain space in on one of my solid rows. I did, right on the last round as well. So I put that at the bottom of my dress. Kept it in, put it at the bottom. I'd come too far. I'd weaved in ends and stuff, you know. I wasn't going to undo it all. Right, oh sorry, I'm now at my final corner after putting double crochets in every stitch. So I'm going to put 2 double crochets in there and a chain 2, and then join it to the top of the chain 3 from the beginning of the round with a slip stitch. Like so. I'm going to fasten off because I'm changing colour again. So what you need to do is have a look in the written description of the video and find the measurement for the width of 1 granny square. So I'm making a size small, and the measurement for me says that I've got to make my square to roughly, I'm going to say roughly, I say it a lot when I'm doing made to measure, roughly 25 centimetres. Because we're working in the round, we're using different plies of yarn, you might not get that exact measurement, but as long as you are close to it, then that is fine. Don't fret or worry if you're like 24 or 24 and a half or 25 and a half or 26. As long as we're close, give or take a centimetre here or there, that is absolutely fine. So the way you're going to measure your squares, because remember, you've got to make 2. One's going to be for the front and one's going to be for the back of your dress. In order to measure them, you're going to have it so your chain space rows are vertical on each side to the left and the right. And we are literally just going to take our tape measure and just measure straight across this square. Well, I'm at 15, so I'm not there just yet. But that is how you're going to take your measurement. Don't know if you want me to zoom in a bit. Here we go. There we go. So yeah, just make sure your chain space rows are either side, left and right, not this way, because your square kind of goes a bit rectangular, less squarey, a little bit rectangular. Until if you decide you want to block it, then you can really stretch that out. It's just because you've got your chain space rows in there. You can stretch it out and make them more square. I am terrible. I am quite a serial non-blocker. But if it's clothing, I'm just a bit like, well, it's going to get washed anyway, isn't it? That's what I always think. All the secrets coming out now. So yes, just measure straight across the centre. Don't measure the edge, because the edge can sometimes give a different measurement. Go straight across the centre, edge to edge. So I'm saying I'm working a small. Mine says roughly 25 centimetres. So if you're working a different size, you're going to have a different measurement to me. But keep working up your squares, turning after each round, matching chain space rows on each edge and your solid rows on each edge until you have two. I'm going to have to zoom out now, I think, aren't I? Oh, modern technology. Till you've got two squares. This one is one of mine that's already done, so I know I've got to keep working up just a few more rows, about 4 more rows. So you're going to have two. So I'll meet you back here when you have 2 squares. Right, so I now have my 2 squares. Although the more rows you add, they do start to look a little rectangular. So this is optional. You don't have to do this, but if you want to get your square looking more square, then you can block it right now. You can put it on the blocking boards, or both of them, and block them. I am proud to admit I'm a serial non-blocker. Sometimes I do it, sometimes I don't. I mean, in my opinion, once it all comes together, it still looks fine anyway. It's going to get washed, it's going to get stretched. Like, I just like to get on with it. But if you want to block it, then I would suggest doing that before we move on to the next section. But if you're ready, the next thing we're going to do is add our side rows. So you should have your 2 squares made up to the width of the granny square measurement that is in the measurements chart. So yeah, next we're going to add side rows to both of these pieces, because one's going to be the front and one's going to be the back. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to add some extra rows onto the opposite sides of our square where the chain space rows are, because we want to make it wider but not longer. So we're going to start adding some rows on each side. So I'm just going to twist my work around because I'm going to be starting in here. Just zoom in a little bit. I'm afraid I'm using my trusty brown again, but it's the next colour, look. It's the next colour. I'm sorry, but it'll be fine, it'll be fine. We're literally just going to be alternating between, we're going to do DC rows, a double, sorry, I'm talking in short term here, double crochet row, and then we're going to come back on ourselves and do a chain space row, and then a double crochet row, and then a chain space row. And you're going to need the measurements for adding extra width to all the sizes. That's in the written description. And we want to add an odd number. So we're going to aim, what am I doing? I'm doing a small. Mine says I need to add around 7.5 centimetres onto each side. So I need to add about this much. And I need to let it end on the double crochet row. So it doesn't matter if it's not exactly there, as long as we're close. We can give or take a few centimetres in this pattern. It's absolutely fine. So we're going to start in the corner chain space of the chain space row. Go right in that very corner and attach your yarn with a slip stitch. And then chain 3, which will be your first double crochet. Then you're going to come to the next 2 stitches. We're going to put a double crochet in each stitch. Then 1 double crochet in the next one. Now we've got the chain space, so we're going to put a stitch in the chain space. My voice is going. So 1 double crochet in the chain space and then 1 double crochet in the next stitch. Let's get a bit more yarn. 1 double crochet in the next chain space, 1 double crochet in the next stitch. So keep repeating that. 1 in the chain space, 1 in the next stitch, all the way across the row. Okay, so I've just put a double crochet in the last chain space and I've got 2 stitches left and then my corner chain space. So I'm going to put a double crochet in the next 2 stitches and then 1 double crochet in this corner chain space. And that's the first row. Now if you're sticking with the same colour, then all you're going to do is chain 4, and then turn your work around and you are ready to start the next round. But I'm changing colour, so I am going to do that quickly. It doesn't matter how you change colour. You can either, sometimes I'd add it into my last stitch, sometimes I just fasten off and attach a new yarn. Today I'm just going to fasten off and attach a new yarn. Doesn't matter how you change colour, as long as it don't come undone. Aha! Let me just turn that around. I've not even got my next colour ready, which is great. Let me just go find it. It's this lovely one again. These go so lovely with the brown, this one does. Even though the brown's a little bit tricky to see, I do apologise again. I think I'm going to be apologising throughout the whole of this video. But it does look good, doesn't it? It does look good. Come on, yes it does. Okay, so the next row is going to be a chain space row. I'm just going to attach my yarn at the beginning of the row in the very first stitch with a slip stitch, if I can get it in there. So chain space row, we're chaining 4. And that's going to be your first double crochet and a chain space. Well, a chain, you know what I mean. And then we're going to skip the very next stitch and then come into the next one with a double crochet. Chain 1. Skip your next stitch and come into the next one with a double crochet. Chain 1. Skip next stitch, double crochet in next stitch, chain 1, skip next stitch, double crochet in next stitch, chain 1, just keep repeating, skip next stitch, double crochet in next stitch, chain 1. So just keep repeating that all the way down the row, and then we have our chain space row. I'll meet you back here when we get at the end. Okay, so I'm right at the end. I've got 1 stitch left and then I've got my chain 3 from the beginning of the round. No, it's not the round, is it? From the beginning of the row, sorry. So I'm going to chain 1, which I've already done, and then I'm going to put my last double crochet in the top of the chain 3 from the previous row. And that's done. That's 2 rows added. So if you're sticking with the same colour, you are just going to chain 3 and then turn your work and you're ready to go. But I'm changing colour because I like to weave in 5,000 ends. That's not true, by the way. Let me get my next colour and turn my work because I'm attaching it with a slip stitch through the first stitch. And then we're ready for the next row, which is a double crochet row. So we're going to chain 3, and then we're going to place our first double crochet in the chain space gap right after the first stitch. So put a double crochet in there, and then we're going to put a double crochet in the next stitch, double crochet in the next gap. Sorry, my hands are a bit high there. Double crochet in the next stitch, double crochet in the next gap. Well, I say gap, chain space, same thing. So just keep doing that. Put in a double crochet in every stitch and every chain space all the way across the row. And I'll meet you back here when you get to the end. Okay, so I'm right near the end of my row, and what I've got left is that chain 4 that we done from the beginning of the previous row. So the chain 4 was the first 3 chains are your double crochet, and the next chain is making the chain space. So I'm going to put 1 double crochet inside that whole area, because that was the chain space, and then I'm going to put a double crochet in the 3rd chain at the top. That is where my last one is going in. So just count up your chains, 1, 2, 3, and put it in that very top one. Your final double crochet, like that. So before I add any more rows, I'm going to look at my measurements of how much I need to add on. So adding extra width is in the description. I'm doing a small. Mine says I need to add about 7.5 centimetres, but it has to end on the double crochet row, which makes it a little awkward, I know. But as long as we're close to that measurement, then it's fine. So I started with my dodgy brown. So that's where I'm going to measure from, in the middle. And just measure that to see how far we are at the moment. I'm about 4.5 centimetres, so I can definitely add another couple. I'm going to add 2 more rows and then see where I'm at. So yes, keep doing your double crochet row and then a chain space row. Remember, for the chain space row, if you are sticking with the same colour, you're going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then turn your work and skip the next stitch and then go into the next one with a double crochet. Make sure you don't just skip the base of the chain, because that does look like a skip. That does look like a stitch that you could just skip and go in the next one. But no, that is the bottom. If I was to change my colour, which I have been, I've been putting it through that very stitch right there, which is the base of the chain 4. And it does literally look like, if you got it like that, it literally looks like a stitch to be skipped, but it's not. That is the very first stitch. Probably should have said that a little while ago, but I was probably using brown, knowing me. I think I did have the brown, so you probably wouldn't have seen it. So yes, remember chain 4 at the beginning of your chain space row. So yes, I'll meet you back here when you have your right measurement of your extra rows added on. I'm sorry, I'm so awkward at talking, but hopefully you know what I mean. Okay, so I've added 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've added 5 extra rows to my work, and I'm about 7 centimetres, and I need to get to 7.5. I'm just going to leave it. That's fine where it is. I'm happy with 7 centimetres. So remember, your last row needs to be the double crochet row. This is why it's probably a good idea as well to block your work first, even though I'm like, don't worry about it, it's fine. It is fine, but obviously it would, if I'd have blocked my work, it would have been a lot more like this. But I didn't. I'm naughty. Look at this end. Look, we're going to have fun with that one. Haha. Okay, so what we're going to do now, once you've got all of your side rows on, alternating double crochet and the chain space rows and ending on your double crochet row, using the measurements that are provided in the written description. You're going to do the exact same thing to the opposite side, and you're going to have to start all over again and do the exact same thing on this square too. So then you'll end up with 2 long rectangles. So I'll meet you back here when you've added the same amount of rows to each side. Just these 2 sides, not these, not this side, just the 2 edges to make it into a rectangle. Yeah, meet you back here in a minute. Okay, so you should now have 2 rectangles with extra bits added onto your sides to make it wider. Don't worry if it's all a bit like ruffled like that. Just straighten it out. Give it a bit of that. Ta-da! Lovely. And I didn't even block mine, did I? So yes, that's fine. I'm happy with that. Next section is going to be neckline shaping for the front panel. So you've got to pick now which one you want to be front and back. Mine are both identical, so just whoop, blew that one out of the way, and I'm going to work on this one. So I'll meet you back here in a second, and we're going to do the front panel neckline shaping. You're going to need a couple of stitch markers for this one. Okay, so neckline shaping for the front panel. You're going to need to go to the written description in the video again and find the measurement for neckline shaping. I'm doing a small. Mine says that I need to add 12 centimetres of neckline shaping. So that means I'm going to start from one end and measure 12 centimetres and put a stitch marker in. And then the other side, I'm just going to count the exact same stitches that I've got this side, because we don't need to measure both sides, do we? We want it to be even, both sides. So 12 centimetres for me. Just going to zoom in a bit just so you can see what I'm doing a bit better. Okay, so 12 centimetres for me is about this stitch here. So I'm going to put my stitch marker in the stitch that's closest to 12 centimetres. Now we need this section here to be an odd number of stitches. You're probably like, well, there isn't stitches all there, look. It's all this bit, all the side bit. I'm going to call these DC bars or double crochet bars, but I might use that term, DC or double crochet bars. And basically, each one of these is going to count as 2 stitches. So we need to have an odd number of stitches in order to continue our pattern design that we've been doing of double crochet and then the chain space rows. So what I'm going to do is count each of this side row double crochet bar that's just sitting here as 2 stitches. So that is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So I'm at 10 stitches at the moment. Next you're going to come to the corner chain space of your original square, and you're going to put 1 stitch in there. So that's going to count as 1. So I've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. Now I can just count my normal stitches. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Okay, so I've put my stitch marker in the stitch, which is going to make it even. So what I need to do is just move it 1 stitch along, closer to the edge, not the centre, because that'll make our neckline a bit smaller. So I need to put this stitch marker in here, the next stitch along, and that should hopefully give me a total of 15 stitches. I'm just going to double check again. So remember, each DC bar is 2 stitches, and the corner chain space of the original main square is 1 stitch, and then you count the regular stitches. So that is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Lovely. So what I'm going to do now is just shimmy my work over. And I'm going to do exactly the same thing on the opposite side. I'm not going to measure it because I know I need a stitch count of 15 going across here. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Now I'm on to my main square, the corner. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And my stitch marker needs to go in there. So you should now have 2 stitch markers here and here. Obviously you're going to have a different stitch count to me. We're all using different plies of yarn. We're all working different sizes. So yeah, find the right size for your measurement and place your stitch markers in there. We're going to start working on this side first, and we're just going to do a few rows of double crochets and chain space rows to bring these 2 sections up, so we then have a bit of a neckline going on. Okay, so the same as the side rows that we've just added, we're going to add more rows to in between this little section here, and we need it to end on the double crochet row again. So we're going to need to add anywhere between 6 to 8 centimetres. Try and get towards 8 more, but it doesn't matter if it falls between 6 and 8 centimetres. So my colour calls for my brown to be the next colour, but I'm not going to use it. I'm going to go to blue first, because I know how tricky the brown is to see. So I'm going to go with straight in with my bluey, greeny colour. Although it looks more blue on the camera, it is like mint green from here. So starting from the first DC bar, we're going to attach our yarn around it. So just like wiggle your finger, as you can see when you're looking on this side, there it is. Look, we are working from this way. So we're going to go straight around that first DC bar with a slip stitch. If I can find my working end of yarn and get that bit out of the way. No, you go behind actually. There you go, that's better. So you're going to join it in with a slip stitch. Chain 3, which is going to class as your first double crochet. And then put 1 more double crochet around the same DC bar. Next, we're going to go to the next DC bar. And we're going to put 2 double crochets around that one. Then we're going to come to the next DC bar, and we're going to put 2 double crochets around that one. I completely forgot to say I'm working on the right side. You can pick what side's right side and wrong side, it doesn't matter, but I picked right at the beginning because I left my little tail that I was talking about earlier right at the beginning of the pattern. I weave all my ends on this side only. Sorry, I forgot that little bit of information. Working on the right side. Although it doesn't really matter, but yeah. So, next DC bar, 2 double crochets. Keep putting 2 double crochets around every single DC bar until you reach the, here we are, I'm right here, look, until you reach that corner chain space of your original square. There's a really weird noise outside. I can't figure out what on earth it is. So in the last, in that corner chain space, that noise is really putting me off. In that corner chain space, you're going to put 1 double crochet. And then put 1 double crochet in every stitch, right up to the stitch marker, placing your final double crochet in the stitch with the stitch marker. Now I'm just going to go back and double check that I've calculated my stitches correctly, because I said I should have 15, I believe it was. So let's have a look what we've got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Lovely old job. So if you are sticking with the same colour, it's going to be the chain space row next. So you will chain 4, which will class as your first double, and chain 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you will turn your work, skip the next stitch, and then go in with a double in your next one. But I am doing a different colour, so I'm just going to change my colour, and then I'll meet you back here for row 2 of neckline shaping. Okay, I'm going to turn my work and join in my new colour with a slip stitch. You can join in your colour however you want if you're changing colours at each row. It doesn't matter, like I said before, as long as it don't fall out, then that's the main thing. So, chain space row, chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, skip the next stitch and go in the next one with a double crochet, chain 1, skip next stitch, double crochet in the next stitch, chain 1, skip next stitch, double crochet in the next stitch, chain 1, and keep repeating all the way across. I'm sure you know what you're doing with the chain space row. So let's just keep adding them in. Mine's quite short, which is good. And then your final double crochet is going to go in the top of the chain 3 from the previous row. And then the next row is going to be a double crochet row. So if you're sticking with the same colour, chain 3 and turn your work. I am changing colour. I don't have it ready, as always. Okay, so I'm going to turn my work. I'm just attaching again with a slip stitch, nice and easy. And then chain 3. And then put a double crochet in the very first chain space. Double crochet in the next stitch. Double crochet in the next chain space. Double crochet in the next stitch. Keep repeating all the way across. Double crochet in every chain space and every stitch. And remember, we are aiming to add between 6 to 8 centimetres in length, preferably more towards 8 centimetres, but your last row needs to be the double crochet row. So just get as close to it as you can. I'm probably going to add, because I did a small and I had to add 7.5 to my edges, I'm probably going to end up adding the same amount as what I did here, because that should be about right for me. Next row is chain space row. Remember, if you're not changing colour, then you'll chain 4 and turn your work. Just going to turn my work, get my next colour. Not ready again. What's my next colour? That burnt-y orange. Is it burnt orange? Maybe not. I don't know. Orange. Pumpkin orange, I'd call this if I had to name it. Sorry. So then next is the chain space row. So chain 4, skip next stitch and double crochet in the next stitch, chain 1, skip next stitch, double crochet in the next stitch, chain 1, skip stitch, double crochet in the next one, chain 1, keep doing that all the way across. Just, oh yeah, hang on, so I'm at the end. Yep, so I'm skipping my last stitch and the first chain, you've got chain 4 here. Is it chain 4? No, it's chain 3. Oh no, I'm not, I don't even know what I'm talking about. Just ignore that little bit I just said there. I'm at my last bit, I've got 1 stitch left to skip, and my final stitch is going in the top of the chain 3 from the previous row. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, that's the one. I'm going to do one more row, which will take me to the double crochet solid row going across, and then I'm going to measure and see where I'm at. Just quickly change my colour. Crashing into everything. I feel like this is going to be my last one, my last row. Okay. So I need to turn my work and join in my last stitch that I made with slip stitch. So chain 3, put a double crochet in the first chain space, and then a double crochet in the next stitch, double crochet in the chain space, double crochet in next stitch. Keep repeating that all the way across. Next stitch, chain space. Oh, I'm getting a bit, I don't really know, getting a bit tangled maybe, I don't know. That's not really the right word. Can't think of it right now. Okay, so I'm at the end, or near the end, so I'm going to put one more double in that chain space, and my final double is going to go in the top of the chain 3. Well, I say top of the chain 3, it's the chain 4, but it's going in the 3rd chain. Ooh, at the top. Which you know that already because you've just done it 4 times. Well, actually done it more than that, not 4 times. Like 4 sections, that's what I meant. These 4, 2, 4. I'm going to stop talking because I'm babbling. Okay, so I'm going to measure how much I've just added on. And I need it to be around 6 to 8 centimetres. And the last row is my double crochet row. It has to be the double crochet row. I just done it that way so that we are all working into the same structure of stitches when we're seaming. It just makes it so much easier if we're all doing the same thing. Otherwise, if some of you end on the chain space row, it's not going to match up to what I'm doing. So it's just easier that we all end on the same row. So I've got 7 centimetres. I'm going to stick with that. Okay, so I've got that bit there. Now we're going to do exactly the same thing, but on the opposite side. And that means we have to start in the stitch with the stitch marker in it, because we want our stitches to be facing the same way as what these ones are. So I'm going to do the first row with you, and then I'll let you carry on, because you're basically just going to do exactly the same here and add the exact same amount of rows. So going in the same stitch with your stitch marker, joining your yarn with a slip stitch. I can't get my fingers around it, I don't know what it's doing. Okay, slip stitch. Chain 3, which is going to be your first double crochet, and then put double crochets in all the stitches until you reach the corner chain space of the original square. I'm there now, so I'm going to put 1 double crochet in that corner. I say corner, but you know, it's the old corner chain space. And that brings me to my DC bars, as I've been calling them. And we're going to put 2 double crochets around each DC bar. So that's 2 around the first one, 2 around the next one, 2 around the next one. Just keep going until you reach the end. So I'm at my final DC bar, and I'm just going to put 2 double crochets around that DC bar. Now before I carry on, I'm just going to double check that I've got the exact same stitch count as the opposite side, which for me is 15 stitches. It's going to be something different for you probably. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Lovely. So keep working the same amount of rows you've just done on this side, on here, and I'll meet you back here when you've done that. So I now have my 2 neckline shaping areas made. That's not even the right way to say it, but you know what I mean. So if you haven't done already, you can now remove your stitch markers. And that's the front panel done and dusted. So now we're going to do the back panel. So basically the back panel is very similar to the front, but we're not going to leave this gap here. We're just going to work straight across, adding the same amount of rows as which you've just done for your neckline shaping. So let me grab my back panel. I'll do the first row with you. Again, I'm attaching my yarn on the right side, what I decided to be my right side. You can pick whichever side you wish, it doesn't really matter. So let me get my yarn ready. We are literally just going all the way across, back and forth, adding the same amount of rows as the front, and alternating between double crochet, chain space, double crochet, chain space. I've lost my hook, hang on. Here we go, back again. So starting this end, we're going to attach our yarn through the first DC bar with a slip stitch, chain 3, and then put another double crochet around the same DC bar. Oh, and then 2 double crochets around every single DC bar. I say every DC bar until you reach the original corner of your main square. Got 1 more DC bar to do. And then you're putting 1 double crochet in that corner chain space from your main square, and then you're going to put a double crochet in every single stitch all the way across until you reach the corner of the main square on the opposite side. So keep putting double crochets in all your stitches, and I'll meet you when you get to the original corner of the main square. So I've just gone through every single stitch with a double crochet, and I'm now at the opposite corner of the main square. I'm going to put 1 double crochet in there, and then that will bring you to the DC bars, and you're going to put 2 double crochets around each DC bar. And you should have an odd number of stitches so that you can continue doing the chain space row as well. So yes, now we've just done that one together, I am going to leave you to it because you're just going to be doing exactly what you've just done, but on a bigger scale. So add next your chain space row and then your double crochet row, and add, where is my other bit? The exact same amount as what you did for your neckline shaping. So for me, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows that I'm adding. 3 are the double crochet and 2 are the chain spaces. So add the exact same amount of rows onto this bit, and I'll meet you back here for some seaming. Aha, it's going to come together soon. Okay, so I now have my back panel done. This is what it's going to look like. So the next part is going to be assembling. I'm going to assemble the front panel and the back panel together. So you need to lay your back panel down so that your right sides are facing up. So this is my right side. I'm going to get my front panel, it's right next to me, and I'm going to lay it on top so that my right side is touching the right side of the back panel. So when I lay it out, like so, here's my front panel, and this is the wrong side because I've got my little centre tail and I weaved all my ends in on this side. So this is the right side and this is the right side of my back panel, so that when we seam it and turn it out the right way round, both sides are going to be right side facing. So what we're going to do is just seam it together. We'll do the shoulders first. So it's completely up to you what seam you use. I'm going to just seam mine together with my hook, and I'm going to use slip stitch. Nice and easy. If you've got a different way that you prefer to seam, then just go ahead and use it. It doesn't really matter too much. So let me just get my hook. So starting at the top right, I'm using the same colour yarn that I used as for my last row on the front and back panel. I'm just going to seam it together with a slip stitch. So starting through the front, I'm going to put my hook through the front first stitch, pick up the back panel and go through the first stitch, which is actually the top of the chain 3 from the beginning of that row. Go through both of them, find my working end, and then I'm just going to slip stitch. Let's just put a slip stitch like so, and then I'm going to go through the next stitch on the front and the back and do a slip stitch. I'm not doing them too tight because slip stitch is quite a tight stitch anyway, so I'm not doing it too tight. I'm keeping it kind of loose so it doesn't all bunch up. So going through both stitches again, next stitch, slip stitch. And just keep doing that through every single stitch, making sure you go through both the front panel and the back panel, and just doing a slip stitch. Nice and easy. If you prefer to use your needle and cut a piece of yarn and do it that way, then that's fine as well. Oh, I nearly did a single crochet. You could also do it with a single crochet if you wanted to. So I'm nearing the end of my first shoulder. Got 2 more stitches to go. My last stitch on my front panel being the top of the chain 3. Wiggle that in there and then go through my final stitch like so. Fasten off and secure that with a little knot, and that's one shoulder seam done. Now for the next one, I'm going to come along, I'm going to grab a stitch marker for this one. Now I know I've got 15 stitches, so I'm just going to come onto my back panel, just move my front one out of the way, and I'm going to count 15 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I'm going to put my stitch marker through the 15th stitch, and I know that's the first stitch that I need to go through because I'm working from right to left. Just get my yarn. Okay, So I'm going to go through the very first stitch on the front and the stitch in the back with the stitch marker in it and create a slip stitch. And then just keep going through both front and back panels and bring them together with a slip stitch, just like we've just done. And hopefully I've counted them correctly, so that by the time I get to the other end, there are no stitches left on the back panel. The amount of times I've not counted them right and then I've come back and I've had to redo it. That's all right. We learn from my mistakes. Usually I'll just eyeball it and be like, yeah, I'm certain that's the stitch. And then I'll be like, no, I should have just put a stitch marker in it. They wouldn't be here right now, having to redo it again. So yeah, hang on, have I gone through the right bit? Yeah, I have. Just making sure we're going through both layers. I've got 2 more stitches to do. Last one, which is top of the chain 3. There we go, that's in there. Move that bit out the way. There we go. And that's my shoulder panels seamed. I can just remove that stitch marker that I put in here. That was quick, wasn't it? Although look at all these ends I've got to weave in. Always the worst part, isn't it? So now it's time for side seams. So what we need to do is go to the written description in underneath the video, and we need to find, or you need to find, the measurement for the armhole. So I'm doing a size small. Mine says 17.5 centimetres. So you're going to need your tape measure and 2 stitch markers. And what we're going to do is we're just going to measure down 17.5 centimetres for me, because I'm doing a small. If you are doing a different size, you are going to have a different measurement. So make sure you go find out what it is. It's all there in the description of the video. So mine is 17.5. I'm going to take my tape measure and I'm going to start from the top and measure down 17.5. And I'm just going to look at the front panel at the minute. I'm going to put my stitch marker in the stitch that is closest to my measurement of 17.5, and that is this stitch right here. Okay, I also need to put it through the exact same stitch on the back. So what I'm going to do, let me just zoom in a little bit again. Hang on, where are we? Here we come. Hey. Let me just move this over. So I'm not going to worry about this area here. I'm going to concentrate on how many stitches I have here in orange that are on the side that we added, the side measurements. So I need to count all of these stitches, including the one that we went round for our neckline shaping. So that's going to be stitch 1. So let me count how many stitches there are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. I've got 16 stitches between here and here. So I need to make sure that I've got 16 stitches on the back as well. And I'm just going to unhook this and get it ready and hope it don't fall out while I'm counting. Maybe I should keep hold of it, because I'm going to put my stitch marker through the 16th stitch on the back panel as well. So we're counting. Remember, the first stitch is going to be the one that you've already got 2 stitches, 2 double crochets going around, the DC bar as we was calling it a little while ago. That is stitch number 1. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So I'm also going to hook my same stitch marker from the front around the back. and that creates this section here, which is going to be your armhole. So we now know that, well, I now know that I need 16 stitches from here to here. So I'm just going to do the exact same thing on the opposite side, and I'm going to count from here down 16 stitches, because that's how many mine is. Remember, you're probably going to have a different measurement to me. And then I'm going to hook a stitch marker through the front and the back on the 16th stitch. So I'll come back to you when I've done that. Okay, so I now have 2 stitch markers going through both the front and the back panels on the exact same stitch, which for me was number 16. It might be a different one for you. And then what I would suggest is try it on and see what you think. You have to draw it on very carefully, because these can just ping open, then you'll lose your stitch and you've got to count it all again. So just don't even worry about turning it the right way round. Try it on inside out just to see if that feels comfortable. If you think it's a bit too big, then you can go up a few stitches. If you think it's too tight, then bring it down a few stitches. It's up to you. But it's best to just try it on now and see what you think before you seam it. Okay, so side seams, I'm just going to do exactly what I've just done for the shoulder seams, and I'm going to seam them together using my hook and a slip stitch. So I'm just going to twist my work around, because I'm going to be working from the bottom corner all the way up to the stitch marker. Let's just bring it in a bit closer again. I'm using the exact same colour as what my 2 rows are. So nice and easy, just going to find that very first stitch. I'm going to go through the front panel first and then the back panel, which for me is the top of the chain 3. So we're going to join those 2 stitches together with a slip stitch, then go through the next 2 stitches, slip stitch, and keep doing the same thing as what you did on the shoulders. Just putting a loose slip stitch, don't do it really tight, through each stitch on the front and back panel to join them together. So we're going to keep doing this until we get to the stitch marker. Okay, so I've got 1 stitch left to go, and that's the one with the stitch markers in it. Well, that's the stitches with the stitch marker in it, is what I mean to say. I've counted them right because luckily the stitch marker is going through both of the next 2 stitches. I'm just going to take that out because I know that's my final stitch, and it's just easier to put my hook through if the stitch marker isn't in there. And that's it. I'm just going to fasten that off and secure it with a little knot. Tighten up this other end, whichever one it is. I've got so many strands of orange going on I've got to weave in. And then literally going to twist our top around again. I'm just going to flip it over though, and this time I'm going to be working with my back panel here. I'm going to do exactly the same thing and join from this corner all the way up to the stitch marker. I'll meet you back here when you've done your second side. Okay, so I now have shoulder seams and side seams. I've been a good girl, I've tucked in my ends where I can. Can't quite do them ones at the moment, even my centre one. So what we're going to do now is the sleeves. So we're going to turn our garment so it's right side out. So just turn it in on itself. I'm going to put it back down again so I've got the front facing me. Not that it really matters, but yeah. So we're going to start working on the sleeves. Okay, so I've literally just grabbed my left sleeve. Doesn't matter which one you start on. I'm just going to open it out and get my new yarn and hook ready. So what we're going to do is we are going to attach in the very first stitch after the seam, after your side seam. I'm going to go in that first stitch right there with a slip stitch. We're going to do a round of single crochet for this one. So chain 1, single crochet in the same stitch. Now we're going to put a single crochet in every stitch until we reach the DC bars from where we added the neckline shaping. So put a single crochet in every stitch. And then your last single crochet of your stitch is going to go in the same one that's got your double crochets around it from the neckline shaping, where you added your neckline shaping in. So you're going to might have to have a little wiggle, or it might just be hanging there like mine is. It's going to go in that final stitch there, like so, which now brings us to the DC bars. So what we're going to do is we're going to alternate doing 2 single crochets, 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet, 1 single crochet. So around this first DC bar, put 2 single crochets. Around the next one, put 1 single crochet. Around the next DC bar, put 2 single crochets. Next DC bar, 1 single crochet. That's brought me to the middle. I'm going to put 2 single crochets around this one. I'm just going to pretend like this shoulder seam isn't here. I'm going to come to my next DC bar and put 1 single crochet around that one. 2 single crochets around the next one. 1 single crochet around the next one. 2 single crochets around the next one. And keep alternating between 1 and 2. My voice is about to go. Oh my goodness. Sorry. I don't know why it's doing that. So yes, keep alternating between 2 single crochet, 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet, 1 single crochet until you get to the stitches again. So remember, your first one is going in that stitch that has the 2 double crochets in it. This one for me is the chain 3. So I've just got to kind of wiggle that in there a bit. Can't believe my voice. What's going on? I might have to go make myself a cup of tea. And then put a stitch or a single crochet in every stitch until we get back to the side seam. Now this round needs to end on an odd number so we can continue doing the double crochet row and the chain space row. Actually, I'm not going to do a double crochet row on mine. Never mind. Anyway, so we can do the chain space row. It needs to be an odd number of stitches. Now, I haven't actually counted mine, so I'm going to have to go back and count. But let's just say, for example, that my final stitch right here happens to be an even number. So I could either skip over that like it's not there and join it to the first single crochet from the beginning of the round, or I could put 2 single crochets in that stitch to then make my stitch count odd. It's completely up to you what you do. I'm just going to have to take a little pause because I haven't counted any of my stitches. So let me just do that and then I'll meet you back here in a second. Right, I've just counted my stitches. I'm currently on stitch 46, which is jolly good because then that means that my final stitch will make it 47. So I just need to put 1 in there. And then we're going to join it to the first single crochet with a slip stitch. and that's round 1. Okay, so round 2, we are going to do a chain space round, nice and easy. So we're going to chain 4, which will be your first double crochet and chain. We're going to turn our work. You're going to skip the next stitch and then go in the next one with a double crochet. Chain 1, skip the next stitch, go in the next one with a double crochet. Chain 1, skip next stitch, go in the next one with a double crochet. Chain 1, skip next stitch, go in the next one with a double crochet. I'll do it a couple more times. Chain 1, skip next stitch, go in the next one with a double crochet. Chain 1, skip next stitch, go in the next one with a double crochet. So keep doing that all the way around. Chain 1, skip, DC in next stitch. Sorry, I said DC again, didn't I? Double crochet in next stitch. Just keep repeating that all the way around, and I'll meet you when we get to the end of the round. So I'm right at the end of my round. I've placed my last double crochet and I've chained 1. So I'm just going to slip stitch it to the 3rd chain of the chain 4 from the beginning of the round. I'm literally just going to count back 1 chain because that's probably the easiest way to do it. So there's 1 chain. I'm going to go in the next one along and join it with a slip stitch. Okay, so this is how far I'm going with my sleeve. That's it. That's all I'm doing. If you want to have a longer sleeve than this, then you can keep alternating between the double crochet row and the chain space row. Well, round, sorry, working on rounds now, aren't we? I've got to remember that. You can keep alternating between the double crochet round or the chain space round. Sorry, I'm getting a bit confused. Or you can just keep doing double crochets or whatever. It's up to you. Just keep adding length. But if you're going to keep adding your length, remember to keep turning your work. So if you're going to add more rounds, if you're going to add more rounds, chain 3, turn your work, and then you're going to be back to putting a double crochet in the chain space, double crochet in the next stitch, double crochet in the chain space, double crochet in the next stitch, all the way around. And then when you get to the next round, you'll chain 4, turn your work, and just do the chain space round that we've just done. But I am stopping right here. I want to wear mine when it warms up. But I think this would make a really nice autumn dress with long sleeves. So who knows? I might make another one yet. This is my 2nd one, and I'm definitely keeping it all for myself. Ha 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 ha. Because I'm selfish. I can't help it. So yeah, that's it. For me, that's all I'm doing. So we're going to do the exact same thing on the opposite side. So if you need to, I'll put the timestamp in here for when we started this one, so you can rewind back the video and just repeat the exact same process for this side. And I'll meet you back here when we're done that. So I now have both my little dinky little sleeves going on. Not much of a sleeve, but I'm wearing it for the summer, so it's perfect. So next section, neckline. What we're going to do is flip our garment round so the back is facing us. Let me just zoom in a little bit. Okay, so we're going to attach our yarn in the very first stitch after the seam. So you've got your side seam, well not side seam, you've got your shoulder seam going on, and we're going to attach the yarn in the very first stitch on the back edge. A little bit hard to see because I've used dark glitter. Can you see it right there? That one. Right after this seam, the very first stitch on the back edge, and that's what you're going to go into. You don't need to worry about the stitch count for this round either. So I'm going to attach with a slip stitch. We're going to be doing some more single crochets. Chain 1, single crochet in the same stitch, and then place a single crochet in every stitch along the back edge. just one single crochet in every stitch. Once you've placed a single crochet in every stitch along that back edge, you're going to skip over the shoulder seam, just ignore that and go straight over it, and then you're going to wiggle and find your next DC bar, and then we're going to put 2 single crochets around each DC bar. That's 2 around each DC bar until you get to your front neckline. So keep putting 2 double crochets. Oh, I've lost that one there. Not double crochets, sorry, 2 single crochets around every DC bar. I'm on my last one. And that will bring you to the front neckline. So we're going to be working back into stitches now. You're going to go in that very same stitch that already has a double crochet in it from the neckline shaping. And we need to remember this stitch because it's going to be quite important if you choose to do the collar. So it's now got 2 stitches in it, this stitch. It's got the double crochet from the neckline shaping and a single crochet from the actual neckline. I don't really know what you'd call it. I just call it a neckline, I don't know. Right, put a single crochet in every single stitch going across the front of the neckline. Okay, I've just gone across the front edge and I'm now left with 1 stitch which also has that double crochet on the opposite side where the neckline has started. I'm going to put another stitch in there, another single crochet. And again, this stitch is going to be important when it comes to doing the collar. So bear that one in mind. This is the stitch that's got 2 stitches in it. You're probably like, what's she talking about? But it's all going to make sense in a minute. So we're back onto the DC bars. We're going to put 2 single crochets around every DC bar. And that is going to bring us to the end of the first round. Oh, what am I doing? So yeah, I've done all the DC bars. I'm now up to my shoulder seam. We're going to skip that. Like it's not there, just jump straight over it. And we're going to join our yarn to the first single crochet of the round with a slip stitch. And that's round 1. Now for round 2, we're going to do a little decrease round. So we're working with single crochets again. We're not going to turn. So we're going to stay working on the right side. So chain 1, single crochet in the same stitch. Now we're going to put 1 single crochet in the next 4 stitches. Okay, so 1 single crochet in the next 4 stitches. Now we're going to do a single crochet 2 together. I'll just show you how to do it quickly, just in case you're not quite sure. So you're going to insert your hook into the next stitch and yarn over, pull up a loop, so you've got 2 on your hook. Now you're going to do the exact same thing in the next stitch. Put your hook in the stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, which then gives you 3 loops on your hook, yarn over and go through all 3. And that has decreased these 2 stitches and turned it into 1 stitch. Now what we're going to do from here on out is 1 single crochet in the next 5 stitches. And then when you've done that, you're going to do another single crochet 2 together. So go through your first loop, pull up a loop, 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 stitch. Hang on, say that again. Go through your first stitch and pull up a loop. Yarn over, pull up a loop, which gives you 2. Go through your next stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, which gives you 3. Yarn over and go through all 3. And that's your single crochet 2 together. Single crochet in the next 5 stitches. And then single crochet 2 together. Again, single crochet in the next 5 stitches. Did I just do 5? I lost count halfway through. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, I did. Single crochet 2 together. I'll do it with you one more time because I'm just going to repeat in this same thing all the way around. Single crochet in the next 5 stitches. And then single crochet 2 together. So just keep repeating that until you get to the end of your round. I will meet you back there at the end of the round. So I'm at the end of my round. I've got one more stitch left to place. I've literally just done a single crochet 2 together. And I've got 1 stitch left to go in. So I'm just going to put a single crochet in that. And then join it to the first single crochet with a slip stitch. And then fasten off. And there's your neckline shaping. Well, not neckline shaping, neckline. Sort of. Oh, there it is. Sorry, I didn't even have it in the screen. I shouldn't have said fasten off, actually, I'm now thinking, because I always say just try it on and make sure that it fits okay first, because you might want to add more decreases, you might want to add less. It's completely up to you how you want it to fit. So yeah, I did get a bit eager when I just said fasten off. Ooh. You could always add another round or take one away. I'm sure it'll be fine. Next section's collar, if you want to add a collar. Right, so the next section is the collar. You don't have to add the collar, that's completely optional. If you don't want to add the collar, then you can find the timestamp for the next section, which is adding length to the bottom. So you can find that in the written description. Now, if you want to add the collar, follow on. You're going to need 2 stitch markers. Let me just zoom in a bit. We're also going to need to find those 2 stitches that I said were going to be important in a little while. So basically where we had the neckline shaping, and then we also joined in another stitch when we went around the neckline shaping. So somewhere right here, you are going to have an area that has 2 stitches in it. Now I've done mine a different colour, so it could kind of help with seeing it. Whether that has helped or not, I'm not sure. We'll find out in a minute. Right, let me zoom in a little bit more, as far as I can go. So, neckline shaping, right, the very first row. That stitch, oh no, hang on, where are we? Zoom in, there we go. This stitch right here has also got a gold stitch in it. There's 2 stitches in here. So what we need to do is follow the path of the gold stitch. I'm going to call that the inside stitch because it's closer to the neckline. So get that stitch right there and follow the path straight up to the stitch on the edge of the neckline. So where's my stitch marker? Here. Literally, it goes straight up, bonk, and it's right there. So I'm going to put a stitch marker through that stitch right there. And I'm going to do the exact same thing for the opposite side, which is here. So there's my stitches where I've got 2 in 1 stitch. Don't know how close I can get it before it starts getting a bit blurry. There it is right there, blue. And then my inside stitch is like a gold colour. And it's just going right up there, look. Where are we? Let me just look down it. If I look down at it, I feel like I'm going to lose it off the camera. But I do also need to look down. So yeah, there it is. Follow the path, which is just going straight up there. Now where's my stitch marker? This is where it's going to get blurry. Here it is. Here it is. I should have had that to handle it. So where are we? Yep, here we are. Follow that right there. I'm just going to nip that with my finger. Put my stitch marker through it. Have I got the right one? Now I've just come back down here. I think I have. Let's hope so. Let's just zoom out a little bit. Hopefully these are both placed in the same stitch either side. It's looking all right so far. It looks right to me. Yeah, that looks spot on to me. Awesome. If you think one looks a little bit higher than the other, then you might have followed the wrong path. You might have gone off tangent a little bit and put it in the wrong one. But you can just look at it and eyeball it and know, yes, they are in the same stitch each side. So, I said we needed 2 stitch markers. That was a little porcupine. We actually need 4. Sorry, everybody. Maths is not my strong point, as you are literally about to find out. Even though I like to design crochet patterns, my maths is actually appalling. But just goes to show, if you put your mind to it, you can do it. If I get really bad grades for maths at school, and here I am designing clothes, and actually enjoying the process, anyone can do it, hey? Right, now we need to find the 2 centre stitches in between these 2 stitch markers. Now you can either, if you're real good at maths, because like I say, not everyone is, like me, count all the stitches and you just know, oh yeah, stitch blah 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 and blah 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 are the 2 centres. For me, yeah, not too sure. So I like to do it the manual way. I'm going to show you how I do it. Don't laugh. It says me who's laughing. So literally, I am going to count both at the same time. So this is my stitches with my stitch markers in them right here. So I'm literally going to pinch them and I'm going to count 1, then move up this one, 2, move up that one, 3, move up that one, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 and 13. So I'm going to put my stitch markers through 12 and 13 because my calculations are telling me that those 2 are the centre stitches. And it looks pretty good to me. Now, 12 and 13. I've got a feeling I might have an even number. Hang on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. So I've got an even number between my stitch markers. If for any reason you have an odd number, then what you will do is you will find the centre stitch. So just say this one right here is the centre stitch, then you will put your stitch markers either side of that centre stitch. Whereas I've got an even number and my stitch markers are right next to each other. But it's fine if you have an odd one, just put the stitch markers either side of the centre stitch rather than right next to each other. Right, we are ready to add on this collar. Okay, so what we're going to be doing now is just adding rows of double crochet around, starting from here. Whee-yoop. Which means we can now take out these edge guide stitch markers because we don't need those anymore. So take them out. Okay, so starting on the right side with your top right side out, I'm going to go in the left stitch marker and join in my yarn with a double, no, hang on, join in my yarn with a slip stitch. Sorry, not a double, a slip stitch. And then chain 3 and then go in the next stitch and put 1 double crochet in every single stitch until I reach the next stitch marker. So just 1 double crochet in every stitch all the way around. And I'll meet you back here when you get to the next stitch on the right hand side with a stitch marker. Okay, so I've got 1 more stitch left to place, and that is in the next stitch marker. Just going to put 1 double crochet in there. So next round, chain 3, turn, skip the next, well, skip the stitch. No, don't really skip the stitch. No, hang on, I said that wrong, didn't I? Just chain 3, turn, double crochet in next stitch. That's the one. That is the one. Do get a little tongue-tied sometimes. So yeah, double crochet. So I'm not even saying what I'm doing now, am I? Double crochets again in every single stitch. Sorry, everybody. I've not had my cup of tea yet. Well, I have had one earlier, but like that was 6:30, and I think it's probably like 10:30 now. Need another one. So yes, double crochet in every single stitch all the way around. And I'll meet you back here when you get to this end again. Okay, I'm right at the end of my round. I've got 1 more stitch to place, and that goes in the top of the chain 3 from the previous I said round, didn't I? Row. I'm working in rows now. I would have to keep swapping, wouldn't I, between rounds and rows? Row. Okay, so make sure you don't leave this last one out because it could be quite easy to miss. Look. But it's the top of the chain 3 from the beginning of the previous row. So we're going to go in that with the final double crochet. If I can get it in there. There we go. Then we're just going to keep repeating that again. So chain 3, turn, double crochet in the next stitch, and double crochet in every stitch all the way around. And that is just going to keep building your collar up. Now it's up to you how many rounds you do. On my other dress, I just did 3 rounds. So after this round, I stopped. But on this one, I'm going to try adding 1 or 2 more to see what it's like with a bit of a deeper collar. So yeah, keep adding these rounds back and forth until you are happy with the way that your collar sits. Let's get in there. That obviously has 3 on it. That only has 2. 2 would be a bit of a nightmare. I don't think it would stay down very well. But that's what 3 is looking like. But I think I'm going to add another one. It's looking quite cool. I really love these colours. Wee-hee! They're very cool, aren't they? Oh, I love working with my scraps because you just don't know how it's going to turn out. Right, so yes, keep adding double crochets backwards and forwards until you feel happy with how big your collar is. And I'll meet you back here for the final section. Although it is quite a big one, but it's not really. But it kind of is, but it isn't. It'll be fine. Okay, so I went for 4 rounds this time. I'm really happy with it. So I fastened off. I'm going to take my stitch markers out because they don't need to be there no more. Just show you what it looks like. I've got to weave my ends in, but it's cool, isn't it? I'm so happy with it. So happy with it so far. Aha! Amazing. So yeah, I'm just gonna, well, I might weave in some ends or I might just get straight onto it. But next section, we're going to add the skirt part. And it might, oh, I know I said before, it's the biggest bit. I actually whizzed through my skirt part in about a day. if we add all the times up, well, not actually, no. I definitely didn't. It definitely didn't take me. Oh, do you know what? I'm just going to be quiet. Skirt parts next, everybody. Okay, so we're now at the bottom section. Just move my notes out the screen. We're now at the bottom section. So what we're going to do is turn it around so we're upside down. And I'm also going to flip it over so that we are working on the back. Now, I'm going to join my yarn right after this side seam. Now that is going to make the seam, because we are going to have a little seam in it because we're going to be working in the round, it's going to make my seam on one side. If you prefer your seam to start in the centre of the back, then you're going to need to find your centre stitch. I'd probably start from your main square here, and you should, if I'm correct, have an odd number of stitches anyway across here. So find your centre stitch and then start from there. But you need to make sure you definitely get it in the centre, because if you've got it off slightly, then you're going to have a wonky seam, then you're going to be like, oh, don't want to wear it now. But I'm going to have my seam at the side. So that is how I'm going to continue all of these instructions, is with a side seam. But I just wanted to let you know that you could always have a middle seam down the back. But yeah, I'm going for a side. So, saying that, let's get our yarn. You zoom in a little bit. We're going to be starting in the first stitch. Well, it's not a stitch actually, it's going to be a DC bar. You might have a little wiggle to get to it, because we've got our seam here and we're going to go around this first DC bar. So join it in with a slip stitch. And then chain 3. We're going to do a round of double crochets. That's going to class as your first double. So then what you're going to do is put another double crochet around that same DC bar. And then we're going to keep putting 2 double crochets around every DC bar. So that's 2 double crochets around every DC bar. This is just going to be like when we added on the neckline shaping and the extra part on the back panel, because now we're at our main square. Well, I am. When you get to your main square, you're going to have that old corner chain space. We're just going to put 1 double crochet in that, and now you're going to work into every stitch across the row. So just put 1 double crochet in every stitch all the way across the row. Okay, so I'm now back to the other corner of the main square. So that's 1 double crochet in there, and then it brings me back to my DC bars. So we're going to put 2 double crochets around every DC bar. And keep going until you reach the opposite side seam. We're going to skip over the side seam and literally just repeat exactly what we've just done. So skip over your side seam, keep putting 2 double crochets around every DC bar until you reach your main square again. I'm now at my main square and I've got that corner chain space again, so I'm going to put 1 double crochet in there and then 1 double crochet in every stitch. So I'm back to the opposite corner of the main square, 1 double crochet in that, and then that brings me back to the DC bars. So put 2 double crochets around each DC bar. And then I've made it back to my side seam. I'm just going to skip over that and slip stitch to the top of the chain 3 from the beginning of the round, if I can get it in. No, no, no. It's just saying no, no, no. Let's just twist it round a little bit more maybe. Yes, there we go, we're in. And that's round 1. Okay, so you should now have an odd number of stitches. So next round, if you're sticking with the same colour, you're just going to chain 4, turn your work. I'm changing colour. I'm just going to do it with a slip stitch. This is why projects take me so long, because I change colour every single round. Why am I doing this? Because it can look really, really cool. It can look really cool. It's just a little bit more effort, but it's fine. Just weave as you go if you're doing what I'm doing. Weave your ends in as you go and it'll become a habit and you won't even notice. You'll do a round, weave some ends in. So what I did with my other one, actually, I did about 4 or 5 rounds and then I weaved those ends in. Then I did another 4 or 5 rounds and I zoomed through this bottom part. I know I was waffling earlier to make it sound like it's going to take ages. Mine didn't. That's what I was trying to say and I could not get it out right. It kept coming out like things were going to take ages on this section. I don't know. So I'm turning my work and I'm going straight in right where I just fastened off, because this is going to be where my seam is. We need to make sure we keep it in the same stitch. Okay, so this is now going to be the chain space round. Sorry, doing it again. Chain space round. So we're going to chain 4. Skip the next stitch, go in the next one with a double crochet. Oop. Chain 1, skip next stitch, go in the next one with a double crochet, chain 1. I've just realised I'm not quite close in, am I, as I have been? Let's go. Here we go. So yes, skip next stitch, double crochet in next one, chain 1. Skip next stitch, double crochet in the next one, chain 1. Skip next stitch, double crochet in the next one, chain 1. And just repeat that all the way around. I'll meet you back here when you get to the end of the round. So one thing I didn't say, which I probably should have done, is if you feel you don't want the chain space row anymore, then you can swap it out for the double crochet row. I was totally meant to say that before I even started the chain space row, but I just got a bit ahead of myself. You know how it is sometimes. So if you feel you don't want this little gappy bit, you don't have to have it. You can just swap it out for double crochets again and just keep doing double crochets. Now I'm going to do double crochet, chain space, double crochet, 1 more chain space, and then from there on out I'm going to be doing the rest in double crochets, because I think it would look gorgeous if you carried on, but I want to wear this on the school run, and I think if I turned up in a seafood dress, the teachers might tell me off and the other mums will probably give me evils or something. You know how it is on the school playground. Although saying that, every mum I've met so far has actually been really lovely, so if you're watching this, I love you all. So anyway, right, if you don't want to have this gappy bit, I'm only doing it I'm only adding 2 of these rows in, and then I'm going full double crochets, but you can swap it out, it's absolutely fine. So I'm at the end of my row round. I said it again. I've done my double crochet, chained 1, skip the next stitch, and then we're going to attach it to the 3rd chain of the chain 4. So just find that first chain before your double crochet and go in the next one along with a slip stitch. There we go. So I'm fasting off because, like I said, I'm crazy and I'm changing colour every round. If you're sticking with the same one, you're going to chain 3 and turn. Right, now, before we just crack on and do our double crochets, this round is going to be an increase round. So let me just lay my dress out. I might as well have it this way because that's how we're working, aren't we? We're working on the back like so. So you're going to need 2 stitch markers. Now, if you have kept the chain space round in like I have, where we have just fastened off that stitch right there, we're going to put a stitch marker in the next chain space. So it's kind of in line with the side seam. And then we're going to do the exact same thing on the opposite side. But if you decided to omit the chain space round and you have done double crochets instead, no worries. You got your first, just pretend that's a double crochet, your first one. Just pretend there's one right here. You're going to put your stitch marker in the next stitch. Okay, so not the first one, which you're going to be chaining 3 from. You're going to put your stitch marker in the next stitch. And then just kind of eyeballing it, put one in the exact opposite side. I'm going in through the chain again that matches my seam. There it is. Put a stitch marker in there. And in those 2 areas, that is where we are going to put 2 double crochets, not 1. Nice and easy. And we're going to do this row of an increase row every other row until we get to the measurement, either the measurement that I've provided. What did I call it? Hang on, just check my notes. Where are we? What have I called it in here? I've called it the bottom width measurement. So we're going to keep working our increase round until we reach the bottom width measurement for the size that you are doing. I'm doing a size small and mine says about 47.5 centimetres. Now you can go rogue if you want and do it to your own hips, and I think I added about 5 centimetres to the hip measurement, and just increase to that. So you can always take your own hip measurement, add 5 centimetres, and then work towards that number. Completely up to you, okay? So we need to do round 3 now. Okay, let's begin round 3. So you've turned your work, going back into the very same stitch where I've just fastened off. I didn't mention it as well because I always forget these blooming things. But for working in the round, I didn't do it on round 1 because I just weren't thinking straight. But I'm going to start chaining 2, and that's still going to class as my first double crochet. But I just feel that when I get to the solid part of my dress where I'm working rounds of double crochets, I just feel the chain 2 sits nicer than the chain 3. It's personal preference, okay? So if you want to keep chaining 3, that's absolutely fine. Do whatever you want to do. I hold no grudges. It's all personal preference. So from here on out, I am going to be chaining 2 at the beginning of my double crochet row, just in case you think, why is she saying chain 2? That is why, because I just feel it sits neater when you're working in the round. So I'm going to chain 2. Obviously I've got my chain space row before and my stitch marker in it. If you omitted the chain space row, you'll just have a regular DC with your stitch marker in it. Put 2 double crochets in this area where the stitch marker is. 2 doubles. And that will be an increase. So I'm going to take that stitch marker out now because I don't need it no more. So if you had the double crochet round before, you're just going to be working into every stitch until you reach your next stitch marker. I've got the chain spaces, so mine's going to be double crochet in the next stitch, double crochet in the next chain space, and just keep repeating that until I reach my next stitch marker. Double crochet in the chain space, double crochet in the stitch. So I'm at the opposite side and I've just reached my stitch marker. So I'm going to put 2 double crochets in that space. Remove my stitch marker because I don't need it in there no more. And then just carry on with my double crochets all the way around. So I'll meet you back here when we reach the end of the round. So I'm right at the end of my round. I've got 1 more stitch to place in my chain space, and then I'm going to join it to the top of my chain 2 from the beginning of the round. And that was the increase round. Not hard at all, was it? Nice and easy. So the next round is just going to be a regular round. We're not going to put any increases in this one. Now for me, it's going to be the chain space round, because I'm going to add 1 more chain space round. If you want to just add 1, that's fine. You can just do a row of double crochets. I mean a round, so I keep getting the chain muddled up. But you know what I mean, hopefully. Right, what colour am I on? I'm on orange. Sorry, I'm not prepared at all again. So yes, this is just going to be a regular round, no increases. For me, I'm doing 1 more chain space round, and then after that I'm just going to do constant double crochets until I get right near the bottom of my dress, and I want to end it with 1 more chain space round and 1 more double crochet round. Again, that is totally optional. That's what I like about these. You can do it how you want to do it. It's just a guide, really, on how to make this style dress. Make it your own. It's fine. Okay, so I'm doing 1 more chain space round. If you want to do a double crochet round instead, that's absolutely fine. So I'm going to chain 4, skip next stitch and go in the next one with a double crochet, chain 1, skip next stitch, go in the next one with a double crochet, chain 1, skip next stitch, go in the next one with a double. I'm just going to keep repeating that the entire way around. If you're doing just a plain double crochet round instead of the chain space round, you are just going to put 1 double crochet in every single stitch. No increases. The increase round is coming up next. So I'll meet you when you've completed this round. Okay, I've just finished my chain space round. I am now going to lay it out again. So I've got my back facing me. because we're now going to do another increase round. So we're going to need our stitch markers again. I'm going to do exactly what we've just done. The next stitch or the next chain space where you've just fastened off, put your first stitch marker, and then come to the opposite side and line it up with your side seam. I'm going to go for this one right here and put my stitch marker in here. Remember, if you've got a double crochet round, then you're just going to put it in whatever double crochet is in line. And then we're ready to do another increase round. Okay, so we're now ready to work another increase round, which will always be a double crochet round. But I am, from here on out, doing double crochets. I'm not going to do no more chain spaces. But like I said before, if you want to continue alternating, that's absolutely fine. I think it would look amazing. I'm just not brave enough to get my bottom out. Okay, so let me attach my yarn. Oh, hang on, am I on the right way? Yeah, I am. My last round. Yep, that's right. Just making sure that I'm facing the right way because we're turning after each round. Oh, more fingers and thumbs. Right. So just a double crochet round, but with 2 increases where the stitch markers are. So chain 3 and then put 2 double crochets in the chain space, or if you did a round of double crochets, then it's going to be a stitch. 2 doubles. I'm going to take my stitch marker out because I don't need that in there no more. And then just continue putting 1 double crochet in every stitch and every chain space. Or if it's just a double crochet round that you're working into, did it again. Then it's just 1 double crochet in every stitch. So keep doing that until you reach your 2nd stitch marker. Whoops, that just fell out of there. 1 double crochet in every stitch and chain space. I've just reached my 2nd stitch marker, so I'm going to put 2 double crochets in that space. Take my stitch marker out because I don't need that no more, and then continue adding double crochets in every stitch and every chain space. And then that's your 2nd increase round. So I'll meet you back here when you've done this round. Right, I've just finished my 2nd increase round and I'm now questioning whether I chain 3 or 2, and I just feel like I said chain 3 and I chain 3. Ugh. But I've done a whole round. I'm not undoing it. It's going to have to stay that way. Maybe I'll watch it back and I'll realise I did say chain 2, but I've just got this feeling that I said chain 3 and I did a chain 3. It looks quite chain 3-y to me, so never mind. We'll just let that one slip. It doesn't have to be perfect. I hope. Okay, right, we've just done our 2nd decrease round. Now, I don't know if I'm going to fit this in. Oh, it's not too bad, actually. It's not too bad. You'll probably notice that it's starting to flare out a little bit, which is what we're wanting it to do. Go out into an A-line shape. So, I am going to measure this bottom area here. I've provided some measurements called the bottom width measurement. So you can either work towards that measurement, which is in the written description, and the size that you are using or working towards, sorry, or you can measure your own hips, add about 5 centimeters, and then divide that number by 2 because we're just measuring the width. We're not going all the way around and doing the circumference. And then you can work towards that measurement if that's what you prefer, or you can just use the ones I've provided. It's totally up to you. So where's my measuring tape? I'm doing a size small and my measurement says 47.5. Well, that's like a rough measurement, you know, as long as we're close to it, that's fine. So I'm just going to measure my last round. I am at 44. So that means I definitely need to do another increase round. Yeah, that's fine. So I want to get to about 47.5. I might have to do another 2 yet, who knows? But, ooh, don't know if you just heard that. The wind just blew and it made my windows make a funny noise. Hope that means we don't need new windows. Okay, next round. Let's go again. This one's just going to be a regular round. No increases are needed on this round. And if you still need to do another increase, you're going to do it on the round after the one that we're about to do. Gosh, I wish I could talk properly and not be so like topsy-turvy with my instructions. I do apologise. We'll just wing it together, yeah? Right then, next round. Normal round, no increases. Oh, I've got a few ends here that are giving me the heebie-jeebies, but I will tackle them in a bit. I'm sure it'll be fine. Right, so from here on out, I am just going to do solid rounds, say it again, solid rounds of double crochet. I'm not going to add any more chain space rounds until I get right at the bottom of my dress, and then I'm going to try and see if I can squeeze in a chain space round and a double crochet round. If you want to keep alternating, that's absolutely fine, but I'm going to keep doing solid rounds of double crochets now, so it's not going to be see-through when I wear it in the summer on the school run, hopefully. So we're going to go into, oh, well, I'm going to go in the last stitch that I just made, but I've got to turn my work first. And this time I'm going to make sure that I definitely chain 2. I get so used to chaining 3, but I just think on the round, when working like this, it just looks a bit neater. So I've got to try and remember. Okay, chain 2. So for me, I am doing a double crochet in every stitch all the way around. If you want to do the chain space round again, that's absolutely fine. So yeah, double crochet in every stitch all the way around, and I'll meet you back here when you've done this one. Right, I have just completed my next round, which I did double crochets again. I'm going to give it another measure. No harm in measuring it with each round that you do. So I'm doing a size small. I'm aiming for 47.5. Ooh! I'm now at like 46. So that's telling me that I should probably just do one more increase round. And then after that, I'm not going to do any more increases. So yeah, one more increase round for me. You might have more. You might have already reached your limit. I don't know if I said, but if you reach your limit to stop. But I will include it in the timestamps. Trusty timestamps. I should write that down actually, because I'll probably forget. Okay, right, one more increase round for me. You actually get to see now what it looks like if you've done a double crochet round. So I'm literally going from the last stitch that I made, which is here, and then in the very next stitch I'm going to put my stitch marker. Before it was a chain space because I was doing chain space rounds on my just before my increase round, but now it's a stitch. So I'm going to come the opposite side. Can you see how it's starting to flare out? Look, lovely jubblies. So I'm going to come and find the stitch that's in line with the seam. I'm going to go for that one right there. We don't need to be too picky, and put my other stitch marker in there. So when I get to my stitches, when I get to my stitch markers, I'm going to put 2 double crochets in that stitch and 2 double crochets in that one, and everywhere else is going to have 1 double crochet. So I'll meet you back here when you've completed your third increase round, if you need it. If you don't need it, just don't even do it. You don't need to worry about increases no more. You're just going to keep doing double crochets or double crochet, chain space, double crochet, chain space, whatever you decide to do with the bottom part of your skirt. Okay, I've just done my third increase round. I'm going to get my trusty tape measure out and see where I'm at. No way. No way. It says 47.5. Tell you what, I can't believe that. I've reached the exact measurement. Well, don't worry if you're like a little bit over or a little bit under. It's absolutely fine. But once you reach your measurement, you're not going to do no more increase rounds. So if you're just doing rows of double crochet, just keep doing that. No increases. If you're alternating, still keep doing that, but no increases. Now, how long are you going to make your dress? That's the next thing we need to figure out, isn't it? I have provided, again, a length for like a mini type dress. Another option, if you're making it for yourself, keep trying it on until you're happy with it. Or have you got a favourite dress that you like to wear? You can always measure that and see, and aim for that. So yes. Right, so what I'm going to show you is how to measure your work. I'm just going to have to pause the video a minute and just lift my camera up a bit because I can't quite fit it all in the screen. Okay, so I've just left my desk, all the messes everywhere. Wow, never mind. You don't get to see all this bit usually, do you? But I just kept it in, whatever, doesn't matter. So, in order to measure your dress, we are going to take the tape measure and we're going to measure from the back neckline. Don't measure from where your collar has started. You're going to measure that last row or last round that you did before you added your collar. So going from the centre, just measure all the way down. And at the minute, mine's saying about 40 centimetres. I want to get to about, where are we? Oh, I haven't changed my, I'm pretty certain mine was 72. For some reason I haven't changed it on there. It's a good job I've got my notes, isn't it? I've just realised I've not changed the blooming sizing on it. Okay, never mind. It's on here though. I am aiming for 72 centimetres because that's where I want my dress to sit. So, this is totally up to you, but I am, on my last couple of rounds, I want to add in my chain space round again. I'll show you what I mean actually. I've got my other dress here. Move it out of the way a minute. Here's my first dress that I made. I've got my 2 chain space rounds here, and then I just went in solid with double crochets, and then right at the very end I added in 1 more chain space round and then 1 more double crochet round. So if I'm saying I want to get to 72 centimetres and I'm done, where's my other top back again? I am just going to measure, let's have a look. I'm going to measure a chain space round and a double crochet round together and just see how much that is. So starting from a chain space round and going down to a double crochet round, it's about 2.5 centimetres. So I'm going to minus that from my 72 centimetres, which is about, oh, please tell me this is right, 69.5. So I'm going to aim for 69.5 centimetres, and then I'm going to finish my dress off with the chain space round and the double crochet round. But I will come back again and do that bit with you. But keep adding whatever rows you're doing. I keep saying rows. Keep adding the rounds that you're doing, whether it's solid double crochets or alternating these ones, totally up to you, until you reach your desired length or the length that I have provided in the written description. So I'll meet you back here when we're very, very nearly done. Okay, so I've been adding my rounds of double crochet, and my last 2 rounds I wanted to end with the chain space round and then 1 more round of double crochet. That's completely optional. You can do whatever you want with yours, but that's what I decided to do. I don't know if you remember, but I did measure how much a chain space round and a double crochet round is, and it was about 2.5 centimeters to 3 centimeters, kind of there anyway. And I'm working towards 72 centimeters, so I knocked that off my total. I need around about 69-ish meters, 69.5, and then I can add my final 2 rounds. Obviously this is optional. You can keep doing your double crochet rounds until you're happy with your length. So if you're going to measure your dress, you're going to go from the back neckline. Don't measure from the top of your collar. Go from the back neckline. Straight down the middle, right to the end of your dress. I'm about 68 actually. Am I? Don't tell me I need another round of double crochet. I probably do now looking at that. Okay. Yeah. Look, I measured this. Mind you, I measured it on the sofa. That's probably not the most ideal place to measure it. Okay, so I think I need to do 1 more round of double crochet, and then I'm going to do 1 chain space round and 1 double crochet round, and then it's all going to be done. Haha! So yeah, I'll put a little video at the end of me wearing this lovely sunset dress, as everyone keeps saying. It looks like a sunset. So I just want to say quickly thank you for sticking around for another tutorial. Definitely for this one. I kind of feel like I bumbled my way through this one a little bit more than what I usually do, and I do apologise for that. This is actually quite hard for me and I'm really out of my comfort zone, but I really appreciate all the support and all the lovely comments that you give me, because it just gives me the confidence to keep going and making more. And yeah, hopefully I'll get better over time, but I can't guarantee that because I'm just awkward in general. That's just how I am. Can't talk properly. Everything comes out wrong. There we are. Never mind. So thank you so much for sticking around for another tutorial, and I'll see you again very soon for another one. Bye.